one yet, Andrew.
Hey, that was not 12-year-old approved, but it was 22-year-old journeyman electrician approved. So I want to invite Roy to introduce our speaker today.
When I first thought about having Father Spaulding come speak, or Bishop Spaulding, I apologize. I did that. That happened about the time that the Pope died, and we were getting a new Pope. And it just occurred to me that would be interesting. And then, if y'all remember, that was about the same time my sister's brother-in-law was ordained as the bishop of the Diocese in Knoxville. So I thought immediately, I said, oh, I ought to have Mark from Knoxville come speak to us. And then I went, I don't think that would be politically correct to bring him into this zone. So I called the Nashville Diocese, and gratefully they said, we will send Bishop Spaulding to speak. So I will make the introduction fairly quick here in saying that that the Most Reverend Mark Spaulding, he's the oldest of 3 children. He was born in Kentucky, spent most of his early education in the Louisville area, and ended up attending a major seminary at the Catholic University of Louvain, Belgium, and earned his degree in religious studies in 1990. He has served, obviously, many positions to become the bishop, but the last couple, he was appointed the Vicar General by the Archbishop Joseph Fritz in 2011. Father Mark was named pastor of Holy Trinity Church in Louisville that year, and in 2016 he was appointed pastor of the Holy Name Church while continuing as pastor of the Holy Trinity Church. Most Reverend Mark Spaulding was ordained the 12th Bishop of Nashville on February 2nd, 2017. I keep hearing you do something for the Titans before the Titans game, and I think half this group is expecting that today. Oh. Please welcome Bishop Spaulding.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to first start off with something I haven't planned, and that was to you, Andrew. Very nice words, very touching, and I appreciate them. And I know I think everybody else in here, you did it well. Get closer to the mic.
No.
Okay. But I took it to mind in part as well. You asked that question, and I think it's a question for all Rotarians. What should we do? What should we be a part of? How should we be doing things? And this is a great gathering today. You know, up until the later 90s, Catholics in Tennessee were the lowest per capita of any state in the Union. So that's how few Catholics now. The grand migration that has occurred in the United States from all these other states to Tennessee, well, a good portion of them have been Catholic. So we're still about 4.5% of the population of the state. Now, when you're speaking to a bishop, my area that I watch over is the middle 38 counties. There's 60-some, right at 60, churches that I oversee with the priests and deacons and religious who serve in this diocese. And there's probably about 117,000 individuals that are Catholic in this area. So if you want some basic stats for who is this guy? What does he do? I oversee, I'm the shepherd of the whole thing. I'm the pastor of the whole diocese. And in our setup in the Roman Catholic Church is, ultimately it does all come to me and goes out from me. And that's an awesome responsibility. Roy mentioned Bishop Beckman in Knoxville. He was appointed last year, and I was appointed here in Tennessee in November 2017, but was then ordained and installed February 2nd of 2018. February 2nd is the Feast of the Presentation of the Lord. Okay. You know what else is February 2nd? Groundhog Day. And I think back upon my ordination quite often, and it is something that is a wonderful thing. But when you're named a bishop in it, and that could be a whole presentation on its own. I'm not going to do that today. But when you're named a bishop, you get to pick the presiding bishop and 2 co-consecrators is what they're called. And so I called one of the bishops and he goes, well, what day is it going to be? And I said, February 2nd. He said, you're being ordained on Groundhog Day? I said, no, it's the presentation of the Lord. And he goes, oh yeah, it's that too. But, so when you're appointed by the Holy Father. I was appointed by Pope Francis to come here and serve as the bishop. As mentioned in my bio, I grew up in central Kentucky, right outside of Bardstown, Kentucky. Anybody know Bardstown? Bardstown, very good. Bardstown is famous for 2 things: bourbon and Catholics. Okay, the original Catholics all came out and populated in Kentucky. Mostly came out of Maryland and settled in central Kentucky. And 3 counties: Nelson, Washington, and Marion. And those 3 counties for Catholics in Kentucky are known as the Kentucky Holy Land, because there's so many parishes that God created, little churches that are still in existence right in that central part. Now, I do not think it's something that's crazy, but to have that area known for 2 things is an interesting phenomenon. But wasn't it Elisha Craig started the bourbon industry? And I think he had some Baptist roots. He was a minister himself. So it was for medicinal purpose. But that's where I grew up. I grew up on a farm. And I grew up in a family that we've been Catholic since forever. It's one of those kind of families. And that part of central Kentucky, which is very different than my experience in Tennessee, was highly Catholic. As a matter of fact, all my neighbors, everybody, all that lived around it was a Catholic area. And so that's my neighbors, our friends. We worked, we lived, and we prayed together. And so that's the kind of home I grew up in. I'm the oldest of 3, as mentioned by Roy, and went to seminary as soon as I got out of high school. And then after that, I had 5 years overseas in Belgium, Louvain, Belgium, and I did my theological studies, and then did another degree in what is called canon law, church law, which set me up for always in service. For me, was always more than one hat. So if I was an associate here, I always had another job. We call our headquarters the Chancery. You might hear it referred to as that. The other name that we use for it is Catholic Pastoral Center. But I always had a job in the parish and also in the Chancery. I was either working as an associate pastor and chaplain to the high school, along with doing what we call work in the tribunal. We have a tribunal system that helps with a lot of church law matters within the church. And then I became pastor, so you become an associate pastor first, then you become pastor, and then you heard I was at Holy Trinity. To explain that parish, Holy Trinity was a parish of about 12 to 1,300 families in a very well-to-do side of Louisville, Kentucky. And then while I was there, I was also a chaplain to a high school, and then I got appointed to help take care of a little parish right outside of University of Louisville, and Churchill Downs. The other parish, just here kind of get your attention to things. When you're watching the Kentucky Derby next year, you're going to see the horses come and take the curve. When they take the curve, in order to get the shot, the camera pulls back. And so you get a wider shot of that third turn. Right as that shot gets wider, there's a church in the background there. That was the other church, Holy Name in Kentucky. That church right there was where I was pastor and before I was sitting down here. Okay? So that's kind of some background and how I approach these things. You could say I'm a country boy, grew up, studies were good. I like education. Education was a strong suit of mine. Went into the college seminary and then theology and then canon law and then service in parishes and then got the call to come here in November of 2017. Like I said, I was ordained in 2018. What is going on in the Diocese of Nashville? A lot of growth. You can see some headlines sometimes about the Catholic Church in other areas of the United States, and you see the consolidation and shrinkage and all that. The opposite is here. We need to build between 2 and 5 more parishes within the next 5 to 10 years. One will be right in this area. Murfreesboro is one of our areas we have to do something. It's not just like I would like to do something. It is now we as a diocese have to form another parish here. The St. Rose, which does a wonderful job and it's a great community, is packed, and it's packed with a variety of folk. Okay? When you're talking the Catholic Church, you know you're talking Anglos, you're talking Hispanics, you're talking African Americans, you're talking Africans, you're talking Vietnamese, Korean, Filipino, probably 12 to 15 languages we have Mass in over a weekend in various churches all through the central part. That's where we are as a church. So we're looking at parishes to expand into. Along with that is most of our, not most, but a good number of our parishes. We always, when we build a parish, we look at what is the population, to look at if a school should be built with that parish as well. So that always is an analysis that we take as we look to build in this area. We are blessed with seminarians. You know, you got your people growing. Seminarians are like men that are looking to be ordained as priests. Our numbers are, this year are 35. 35 in a diocese that's kind of on the small side. And we have these very good numbers. So we feel good about where we are in our numbers for seminarians. Our schools seem to be strong, and we have to expand our number of parishes. So all these kind of things tell you something about who we are and what's going on here. And the concerns that we always have in the church is the respect and honor of all peoples. 2 is we are always looking for how we can bring people together to build the kingdom Jesus lived and died for on this earth. And we reach out to try to do that with others. And I think this is an opportunity in which you hear the Catholic Church loves to work with others in the areas of building up peoples and really how we have this vision of God's kingdom on earth. We got God's kingdom on earth being built to lead us to the kingdom of heaven. And so we're trying to work that, and it's, like I said at the very beginning, usually gatherings like this, now you can say when you see somebody like those Catholics, whatever, after that, you can say, well, I met the bishop, and he seemed to be a decent guy. And sometimes that's all it takes, my dear people. A long time ago, I was in an establishment having some wings and fries and other liquids. And I was sitting there with another gentleman, and this group of young guys comes in. And let's just say they were full of energy. I'll put it that way. And they sit down, and all of a sudden one of them is giving the waitress just trouble. Talking and picking on her a little and all this. And another one at the table looks over at him and says, "Dude, not good." And he stopped immediately, to the benefit of everybody in the restaurant. Now, I think there are places and moments each of us have when we're called to step up and say, "Dude, not good." And if we do that, then time with, and what you said earlier, I think when we just say to somebody else, when they sort of have certain kind of myths and misunderstandings of the other, we have to be the people, Rotarians especially with your mission, to say, "No, I don't think that at all," or that's not my impression whenever I talk to him. That's not my impression of Roman Catholics whenever I sit down with them. And as much as we need to move this world in the right direction, why don't we reach out in goodwill to others and work together instead of separating out? And one last thing, and I think various ministers are here, so your Greek studies, the devil, the word they use for devil in Greek, one of the words was diabolos. And if you break the word down, it means to divide and throw apart. So just think, the genius behind the language was this. What are we going to name this evil? What do we name the thing that is opposed to God, that's dark, that's destructive? And the genius of the language is the word diabolo. And if you're Hispanic, you know that diabolos is still the word they use. It means divide into, di, divide, and abolon, balon. It means to throw. So one who divides and throws apart. Here's what we understand as Christians, and maybe there was other denominations in here besides Christian here, but Jesus is understood as the man of communion. For Roman Catholics, we say during the Mass we receive Holy Communion. So as you bring people together and you unify, you're doing the work of the Lord. As you divide, make people opposed to one another, watch out how you do that, because you could be working for the other guy. And what I think your mission and motto, and I know my mission and drive is about, is unifying people as much as I can in all that I do. And I hope by the end of this conversation we're about to enter into, that you can go out of here and be that person that is a person of communion, of unity, of bringing people together. Okay, I think I'll get some minutes to answer questions.
Yep.
Please.
So, with 6 children, a lot of people tell me I'm from a big family, consider my family large, and I feel that way until I get around some Catholic friends. You kind of worked, you experienced a lot of growth. I'm kind of curious if y'all have studied your statistics. I know across the developing world, we're kind of facing demographic challenges due to replacement rates. Is any of your growth attributable to your congregants or having large families? And
What I would say for us, and we have all the above going for us right now, okay? Which means, Yes, I do see a turn in this. You know, one of the creative turns, and you may be seeing it in your churches as well, but we have a lot of young people starting to show up at our services, at Mass. Not only are they young, but it's a lot of young men. Okay? Now, maybe some of your traditions, oh, well, we always had that. Well, some of ours is kind of a swinging pendulum, and young men, and they want faith, they do want family. And they seek that out. The one thing so I'm going to tie studies to studies to studies here. You know, one of the studies around this thing, which you mentioned as well, and social media, is the more you get trapped by this box. I'm looking at you young people. The more you're trapped in this box, the lonelier you get, the more depressed you get. All these studies say this box will destroy you. Okay? If you don't learn how to have power over it instead of it having power over you. And so we have to learn, because I use this box. It has the breviary of the church in it. So I use morning prayer, midday prayer, evening prayer. I research my scriptures in it. I do all this thing. It has the power to do great things, but it also has the same power to bring down. So that's a long answer for one thing that I do see young people. I think all the above is, it is one, we do have people entering into marriage, having children, we have migration, and we have I think people want to have bigger families now. And it's always been encouraged in the Catholic Church. Please.
Are there any Catholic universities in Tennessee?
There is a little college, Aquinas College, that the Dominican Sisters run in Nashville. But it's quite small. It only has it's like 80, and most of them are the sisters themselves. But they have a good Catholic college.
Are you seeing growth with the sisters?
So, the National Dominicans, if you ever want to, I don't care what congregation you're part of, denomination, if you want a gift of meeting 200 women that are full of joy in the Lord, go visit the Nashville Dominicans. Their average age, now they're the exception to the rule. Their convent is full, and their average age is 38. But the number one thing I want you to visit them is because when you meet them, they have the joy of Jesus Christ in them, and they'll tell you about it. Okay? Now, they're all dressed in the, veil and all that, and that's beautiful to see. But I think what's beautiful is their own spirit. And if you want somebody to really inspire this group, invite one of the Dominican sisters to come here. They'll hold you in the palm of their hand. Now, when they're finished, they'll also try to get something in that palm of their hand. Those sisters know how to get it. That's really great. Please.
With the general national decentralization of educational opportunity, bringing it more toward the community,
yes.
Are you thinking about building schools that may not be associated with new parishes?
So, first of all, we're in a whole brand new territory right now with considering school and private and parochial education because of the Education Freedom Act here in state of Tennessee. So we met with the governor. I want to say we were clearly for this. We were day one when Governor Lee proposed it back in his early part of his administration. We were there. We worked with him. He used us as one of the advisory groups. And so we meet with him every year just to talk about all the issues that we have as bishops. So there's three, by the way, sidebar. There's 3 bishops in the state of Tennessee: Diocese of Memphis, Diocese of Knoxville, and the mother of them both is the Diocese of Nashville. Okay, but we have great opportunities, and it was the governor who said, I hope by passing this act and supporting our families that you can either build new ones or reopen any of you have closed over the last 50 years. And that was his statement to us. And so it's got us thinking, we want to make sure the ones that are, now St. Rose has got great numbers, solid numbers. I think, I'm going to say this about, and all of you are such leaders. I know you're leaders in the community, and your parents as well. When I was growing up, my dad was trying to teach me to swim, and so he would get me in the pool, and once I put my head down, he would back up real quick to make me try harder and swim longer. I find that's a great analogy of being a bishop. As soon as I put my head into the water, somebody moves where they are. And when I stand back up, they're like, I know I was swimming hard, and it looks like I'm further away. And, well, it's just, what I want to say is education is one of those fields that you're always working it. You're always working it. And I do appreciate the resources, because I think it's going to allow people from outside to choose in, and people that are in, especially those who are middle class or lower in their financial abilities, to sustain having their children in Catholic schools. And those who have money, I hope they'll be generous with it. They pay their taxes too. I hope they're generous to their schools and to their community, because that great help that the state's going to give them. So, yes, we have some dreams. We do have dreams around Catholic schools.
Thank you.
Excellent.
So my understanding, and thank you for all those insights about Diabolus, I think that is amazing. I've just known him as Satan, which is the accuser, but of course Diabolus that makes perfect sense. And to my understanding, there have been 2 great divisions in the beginning. The first one was, of course, when Eve was taken out of Adam, and one person was made into 2, so there was a division there, but then they fell into sin and were divided from God. And then at the end in Revelation, you have that big, great wedding, and the bridegroom comes back and unites, as Christ with the body of Christ, with the church, the bride. And my question would be, and I'm an evangelical who reveres the Virgin Mary, so that's kind of a breach in itself. It's illegal in the evangelical landscape, but I still do it. And so my big question is, because it's difficult to get an answer where I come from, is how should the bride best prepare herself for his return?
Well, I think that's a deep question. And I think it is one that we discover as we discover the Lord himself. I think she wants to know the beloved. I think in relationship, the more you know his desires, his wishes, his hopes, his dreams, and to know that he knows your wishes, your hopes, your desires, your dreams. And that as you grow in appreciating that for each other, you'll give whatever is needed to the other to prosper into the person we're called to be. So, how do you do that? Well, first and foremost, if you're from the evangelical period, I say, know the scriptures. In our tradition as well, Jesus is the Word made flesh who lived among us. And the best way to know him is to read over and over the scriptures. Sidebar, has anybody watched The Chosen? Chosen. Highly recommended. It's not so much that it's absolutely biblically, where did they get this? It's really from a tradition of Midrash, or some of the Jewish, and in our Catholic things, is a Jesuit meditation way of reading the scriptures. And the way the Jesuits would do it is say, place yourself into the scene. Okay, as Jesus is walking by, you're sitting there waiting for him, and that guy that's blind calls out, "Son of David, have mercy on me." And you look at it, you're looking at the guy, and you're feeling awkward because he's yelling at Jesus, and he's kind of got him already back there. That same kind of play in the head with scriptures, the Chosen does in a whole season, but it brings the apostles and everything that he did, the early disciples, all alive. And that's what, bishops are considered the successors of the apostles. And one of the little kids, I was at one of our grade schools one time, and he asked me this great question. And here was the question: which apostle do you think you're descended from? And I said, well, I know my limits, my failures, and my frustrations. I said, whoever was probably the most challenged is the one I'm most alike. And they go, well, you must like St. Peter. I said, yes. But that's what it is. So I know I got the 2-minute warning. I love it. Please.
All right, this is not a deep theological question. Are you a Kentucky basketball fan? Being born in London, Kentucky? And
I was born right outside of Bardstown, so.
Yeah.
But the answer is yes.
Amen.
So, on the day I was announced, they put you in a room and you have to go before all these TV people and press conference. And so they had me in there, so I was kind of nervous and excited and all this. And so they had all these sweaters and hoodie things, and they picked up and they said, "Would you root for the Titans?" "Oh yeah, I'd root for the Titans." They grabbed the Vandy. "When you root for Vandy?" "Yeah, I'd root for Vandy." They grabbed one more and they showed me maybe MTSU. "Oh yeah, I root for MTSU." And they reached and there was an orange. And they went to go for the orange one, and I said, "Every man has his limits." Very good. Thank you. So that was it. That's how my life is. So I finish with what, and you mentioned it. So I have an advertisement I do with the Titans, which is, it's soft evangelization. And it always finishes with this. And it's something I do encourage our children, your children, if they're in our schools, and when I go to Mass with them, I teach them this every time I'm there. They catch it like that. And here's the saying: good, better, best. Never let it rest until your good is better and your better is best. Great being with you. God bless you all, and may we continue to unite together and build God's kingdom on this earth. God bless you all.
Put a smile on my face before every game.
Yeah.